Shabbat Shalom on this rainy Saturday, late evening, afternoon. I pray everyone had a good time of shouting and making noise, which is what yom-teruah is all about. And currently in the process of putting together some new insights, some new things that Father is revealing to me about this festival season and about what the Creator says for us to remember and how we're supposed to remember it. And I'm sorry. One of the things I just want to share with you today briefly is, if the pages of your Bible, and even specifically Revelation, is not worn, doesn't have that, broken in feel, it's kind of a indication, unless you just purchased a new Bible, that we probably need to be spending some time in His Word and understanding the timing of things and what He told us to read the book of Revelation, not to be scared of it, but to read it so that we are blessed. And I don't believe that He expects us to understand to the T and pulling everything together and understanding in a nice, pretty chart or graph everything that's laid out there in Revelation and Daniel and Zechariah and Yoel or Joel. So what I'm trying to say is, what are we doing with our time now while we are able to work? It is the time to bring the gospel to the nations. It is time to bring the gospel to our next door neighbor. It is time to stop trying to figure out so much and spending all of our days writing charts and graphs. And at the end of the day, once we feel like we've got our theology down, we sit down in our armchair and we throw on some TV or a movie and just relax because, hey, we've got it all down. I'm not condemning those who are in the process of studying and putting together their own timelines. I'm all for timelines, but a timeline to Father means nothing if we're not out doing something for Him and praying for people and ministering to people. And, if you really want to begin to understand and become a student of the Word and prophecy, which the time is coming quickly to a close, so we really need to ramp up what we're doing. Start taking away some of the timing, and there's a lot of things that are still difficult to understand because we don't have markers to necessarily show us the timing specifically. And what I mean by that is, you have times, and half a time. You've got 42 months. You've got 1,260 days. You've got 1,290 days. You've got 1,335 days. You've got all of these timings. And sometimes I feel like that we get so hung up, and I have myself, I've gotten hung up in the past of trying to put together a timeline and understanding. And at the end of the day, what if I have it all together and I understand the timing? Does that change the fact that I need to be preparing for the end and making sure that my garment is clean and white? Because there's a whole lot of people that are out there doing stuff, healing in His name and doing these things that will not be allowed to enter into the kingdom. And if I'm not even doing that, and I'm sitting back in my easy chair with my computer and my graphs and my charts and timelines, what am I doing for the kingdom? And this is kind of what I'm speaking in wisdom here, is that we need to take the events. There are parallel events, things happening at the same time in Revelation, For example, also in Joel, different ones that you can go through if you want to study, and by the events and the things that happen, then we can begin to understand the timing. But we need to really be paying attention, because, as I've written, we do not overcome by how well we know our charts and our graphs and our timings and things. We do not overcome by saying, well, I don't really understand all of that, I just want to be ready. But then you don't ever do anything. You say, well, I don't really quite understand it, and you don't really open your scriptures to attempt to understand it. But because you say, well, all in all, at the end of the day, you have to be ready. Well, of course you do. But are you actually preparing is the question. And it's the question, I asked for myself. So we're all kind of in this thing together. But we don't overcome except only by our testimony, our witness, in the face of all evil. If we can't witness and testify of the blood of the Lamb and have a testimony in front of our co-workers at work who pour out vileness and pour out they don't have any problem discussing who they are and how they live, then how are we going to stand in the face when all hell breaks loose and you start having the sounding of these trumpets, as it says in Revelation 8? There's a reason why there's silence in heaven. Yes, there's many different interpretations, but one of the ones that I believe is, it's the equivalent word that's used for silence is the same word in Acts that Shaul or Paul used when he was being taken up the stairs, and they were ready to just tear him apart. And he had one last thing that he wanted to tell the people of Jerusalem, basically before he went into the trials and things. He raised up his hand. He says, and the crowds became silent. Everything became silent because he was preparing to give his testimony of how Messiah Yahushua prepared and met him, and how he was delivered. And I believe there's a time that Father's going to allow us before those soundings of the trumpets, before all we can do is maintain, if we are sealed at that particular time, or maintain our testimony. But there's going to be a silence in heaven where everyone is listening, and there's going to be a time that we are going to be able to give our last testimony for those that are alive and on the earth. Because up to that point, once we do that, it's up to the people to repent. And he sends all these things. And at the end of Revelation 9, many will not repent. And the closing of the mystery of Elohim, Revelation 10, right before the sounding of the seventh trumpet, it says, that closing of that secret. Well, Shaul tells us what that secret is. It's Messiah in us, the hope of glory. And so I want to bring back around and really emphasize what this month really means. And I'll give you a taste of kind of some things that I'm going after. And in 1 Kings 8, and I'm kind of jumping out here because I don't like giving things before I get everything all prepared and written, but I'm going to try a different approach today. I want to share just a little bit. 1 King 8, it says, in the 7th month, which is the month of Etanim, or in English it will be Ethan or Ethanim. That word is powerful, and I'm going through and I'm studying each part of that because it defines what the 7th month is all about, and it's a month of endurance. The word means enduring and continuing. It is a month by far above all the months where Messiah says, those that endure to the end shall be saved. He's speaking of that month, and he's speaking of the month of where the end happens. and all will be saved. That's Romans 11. That's yom-kippur. So, in speaking of all of these festivals, we know that Pesach, that Passover, is our provision for sin. Messiah came and made provision for our sin. The Feast of Unleavened Bread is our time to put sin out of our life, to live a sin-free life because provision has been made. First fruits. Messiah is our first fruits. Yes, it speaks of the resurrection, but it also speaks of, in our particular time period, a time of separation. Messiah said, I have to go away, and he went to the Father, but he sent his Spirit. Now, in that separation, he separated himself from the earth and from this world because he couldn't stay in this world anymore. He says, I don't pray for you, Father, to take them out of the world, but basically give them the strength to go through the things they have to. Messiah was separated because he finished his course. He was separated from the humanity portion of it when he was resurrected and set down at the right hand of the Father. This is what it truly means to be ye set apart, as I am set apart. When we are set apart, we are sitting on the throne next to Father. That's how radical set apart is he's talking about. This is what first fruits is about. Shavuot, when Messiah now he sends the Spirit, it's the power to remain set apart in this wicked and vile generation. It is the work, it is the strength to finish the work through the summer to prepare for the end time harvest. And it is our work. Even now, Messiah said, don't think, hey, 4 months into the harvest. No. Now, the fields are white. It's summertime. We should be out there working. And it's the set-apart spirit that gives us the strength to work, but also gives us the strength to remain set apart unto Father and to stay sitting on his throne and not upon our throne. Yom-teruah. It is a time of severe storms. It is the culmination of the severe pressure and testing, the time of the great distress, the time where if there was anything that was going to destroy our crop and even our own fruit, the fruit that we have produced by the fruit of the Spirit, which is our righteousness. Because of Messiah, we produce the fruits of righteousness. If we don't hold on to that Messiah, this is what he's talking about. He's going to turn up the heat, and the fire is going to see if our fruit remains. This is the time of the testing of the severe storms. Will we have enough to bring in for everybody to celebrate when the time of Sukkot comes? But I want you to know that the timing of the harvest and all of that will be closed on Yom Kippur. All of that, when he finally returns at that last trump, the very last trump, and he returns and finishes gathering those that are alive and remain, those that are left over from what? Left over from the great distress. And he has got to shorten those days. And then Sukkot is our time to eat the fruit of our rewards. And so this is the beautiful backbone of the plan of salvation that he has. It begins with Messiah. People, it's all about the Messiah. You can't remove him from anything. The day of trumpets, it's a battle cry. Blow the trumpet in Zion or Zion. Sound an alarm. Okay, we're getting it. It's the time of shouting. It's a time of testing. It's a time of making noise. And why do we make noise? Because we are commanded, as it says in Leviticus 23, this is a memorial, a zichron. It is a memorial for shouting, for blowing the trumpets. When his children make noise enough, because we can't handle anymore and the pressure's too great, he will show up. And I want you to know that I don't care what you're going through. He will show up. He will be that Psalm 18 deliverance. He will be that 1 Samuel 22. David was weary all of his days. He was weary from the things he was going through. He had people trying to kill him, and the significance of that. You know, I was having a discussion on my email with my mom, Yedida, and she was, you know, she put it back on me. She says, well, go out, and I haven't done it yet, so sorry, Mom. But she says, why do you think David was so wearied to where that it brought him to the point of crying out to where Messiah said, that's it, I hear my children crying. Okay, this is the memorial. It's not only for us, but it's, hey, Father, it's a memorial for him to remember his children. It's a memorial for both parties of the covenant to remember, hey, we have obeyed your commandments. We have followed diligently. We have done what we are supposed to do. We can't take any more pressure. King Saul, he's out to kill us. We have the giants that are coming. We have all these things that are coming upon the earth. And David cries out because he's so weary. We have got to be obedient in our memorialization, in our remembering of the commandments, of this shouting. Because in the 6th chapter, I think it's the 6th chapter of Joshua, in a way it talks about, I was reading Judges 6 this morning, so maybe I'm getting it confused, but the walls of Jericho is highly significant. And I won't share any more than that, other than the fact that when those walls of separation come down, that is the veil. When we shout and we cry out, as Messiah cried out, and he gave up his spirit, the veil of the temple rent in two. And yes, we are allowed to come into the throne room boldly, but with humility. However, Father is able now to come out and dwell with his people. So think about it. This covenant is two ways. We do our part. He does his part. It says in the word in 2 Chronicles 15, I believe, that, hey, you forsake me, I'm going to forsake you. I mean, what else is he going to do? We forsake him and we walk away. Then what else can he do? And we have a responsibility, is what I'm trying to say, to this covenant. We have a responsibility during the time to know the plan of salvation, to know these festivals inside and out, because what I'm doing for myself, it's something that Father's put on my heart to do, is to know the 10 Commandments, to know the covenant, and to know, to write it out over and over again until it gets ingrained into us. Because I want you to remember that the time to leave Babylon and everything it has to offer is now. We leave Babylon, Nehemiah 8, we go into Jerusalem, and what happened? And this is tying into the month of Etanim, or Etanim, the month of Teruah, the month of, well, I'll say Tishri, but Tishri is actually a Babylonian name, so I'll say the 7th month, which is Etanim, the significant. The names of the month also correspond to their function. That's Hebrew. That's Hebraic understanding. So when they came to the water gate, which is highly significant because Etanim means strength. It means rock. It means endurance, but it also means flowing, continual. And there's so many things that I'm going to be bringing out within all of that. But I want you to understand that the day that Ezra the priest read that Torah to the people. He says they heard and they understood. Now, this is a direct parallel with when Messiah first came down on Sinai with a loud shofar, and he announced his wedding vows. This Nehemiah 8, when he comes back, when the people return to Jerusalem, and the wedding begins to take place, that the bridegroom, he's going to reinstate. Now we are going to understand what he's saying, whereas before we said, hey, all that you say and do, we will do, but we hadn't even received the commandments yet. That's Exodus 19. We don't even know what he said. But this time when we return to Jerusalem, get it into your spirit that it's a picture of the wedding day, of that day that the high priest reads it. And what's most significant about that is it says they assembled in Jerusalem as one man. Now tell me that is not significant to the house, the entire house of Israel. The house of Israel, all the 10 tribes in Judah, the entire house. Those that are in Messiah are one. And when we come together out of Babylon and meet in Jerusalem as one man, we are talking about the serious wedding. We're talking about this is the time that he takes us. And there's so much more significance to all of this, but I just wanted to explain and just encourage to get into the Word and to really study out Leviticus 23, really begin to understand, and don't let it overwhelm you. Study one portion of it at a time. As we are preparing to enter into yom-kippur, there is a fast, and we must remember that it's more than just not eating. Of course, that's part of it. If you have a problem with not eating, there's other ways that we can fast, and it's not just all about that. But it is the way of afflicting the being. Whatever we have to do to come before Father to where we are honest about ourselves, that is what he wants. Because when we become honest with ourselves, we have no problem being honest before him, because we can tell him all day long, we're this way, but if we don't self-examine and we don't go in, it's the lamp of Yahuwah. He's the one, it says in the Proverbs, I believe, that it's his lamp that lights, basically, are the things that are hidden within us. So now is the time to really dig deep into his word and throw out things that maybe are, I wouldn't say throw out, but just lay everything out on the table and start questioning things that you have been taught by your pastors, traditions and things, and just really begin to grab a hold of his word, because he will reveal it. He will show you exactly the things that you need to get out of your life, and things that we need to begin to align ourselves, because the time is coming and is very, very near when, if we are not aligned to the plumb line, he will make sure that we are one way or the other, because the intent of the tribulation is his mercy, because he wants to extend to us the maximal allowable time for us to make a decision on one way or the other. He says, I would rather you be hot or cold, or I'd rather you know good, or I'd rather you know evil. But because you can't decide between which is which, that's lukewarmness, and I'm going to spew out of my mouth. We better find out who is good. And we can't call anything good in ourselves unless we are submitted to the one who is good. And he is good all the time. and everything that he does is good. So I encourage you this day, and I just want to bless you and just thank Father for each one of you and everyone that is hearing this message, because there's more to come, because I'm digging down now and I'm finding the time, go figure, the time when I'm so maxed out with everything that I'm having to do with the world doesn't seem like I'm having a whole lot of time, but I think Father is multiplying the time and the quality. Though you may not have quantity, and this one I want to encourage you, he will bring that quality and bring things to you and open up your senses and open up the senses of your spirit, man, so that you're able to absorb more. Because the more that tribulation comes, the less time that we're going to have that precious time to spend with him in prayer, and even in collective prayer and being together with people. We're not going to have as much time, so grab hold of what you can now, absorb what you can now, because that is what the tree that is planted by the streams of water, it says even when the drought comes, the roots are down deep. And we've got to find our roots down deep because the drought is coming. And we want to be able to flourish and provide fruit for those that are hungry and they are thirsty. And that they are coming to find fruit on us because we are in Messiah. Not anything of ourselves, but it's the fruit that because we are bearing that fruit, they are coming to seek after that. And so don't deny people the fruit because we're too lazy, talking to me to prune and to water and do what we need to do with our own lives, because it's not only about us, and we think it is, but it's about providing fruit and nourishment to other people who is going to desperately need it in the days to come. So be encouraged. Shabbat Shalom.